Started here. This is the council committee meeting, May 16th, 2017. First off, I would like to extend a thank you out to Lauren Tolliver. This is her last meeting with us. She's done such a great job, and we've enjoyed having her so much. So everybody make sure you...
Flowers?
Thanks a lot, Patty. I thought you were going to do that.
There's still time.
Yeah. Done a great job. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
That just means you have, what, like a week left of school?
It's a beautiful thing, too. All right, the first item on the agenda under Public Works is the Stevenson Road replacement.
So yeah, we'd like to go ahead and get started, Mayor. So Ms. Pitts is actually going to start this ball rolling with a little history lesson. So
Can you guys hear me okay? Is my mic working? Doesn't sound like it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so in Erlanger, if you want history, you go to Jim Viox. So that's who I went to. So here's a little history on Stevenson Road. And his stories always start with back in the day.
You know, back in the day.
Erlanger put in a small two-lane road called Stevenson Road, and Erlanger is the one that put it in. Not positive the exact year, but in the early 60s, a very connected Erlanger resident got the state to take over Stevenson Road, and then they blacktopped the road. The road's been resurfaced twice since then. The problem is each time it's been resurfaced, it's raised the road, which has created a whole new set of problems. Jim also said in the mid-'80s, during Martha Collins' tenure, Stevenson Road was scheduled to be reconstructed. However, in the very end, the state took all the funds and they used them in Georgetown to make way for this little place called Toyota. So to this day, those plans are still sitting in District 6. So there are plans for reconstruction from 30-something years ago. So our original plan for our committee of 4 was to go through the necessary protocol to get Stevenson Road to possibly be sponsored by OKI. Once it gets sponsored, it gets ranked in the books, and then you go from there. So before doing this process, Tom thought it was a good idea to get Judge Executive Chris Knockelman his blessing or support and let him know what was going on. So he scheduled a very small informal meeting for the 3 of us to talk to him about it. So that way we would have his backing before our committee started work on the process. So anyway, much to our surprise, Chris Knockelman decided to invite a few people to this little meeting. The city administration, our administrator, some people from the state, the Department of Transportation. So it wasn't as informal as we thought it was supposed to be. But anyway, we did fine. We presented our case with facts and pictures. We supported why this is long overdue, or we tried to show why it was long overdue. We showed how much growth has developed on the east side since the mid-'80s, so we were trying to explain what's happened since they were originally going to reconstruct it. A few neighborhoods that were just starting or hadn't started yet since the mid-'80s were Woodland Hills, Brightleaf, Mesa, Deer Chase, Doe Run, Lakemont, Shearborn, the Enclave, those Overlook Apartments, Woodcrest Nursing Home, none of that was there. It was just beginning. The census in the mid-'80s in Erlanger was 14,500. The census now is pushing about 19,000, which is mostly growth on the east side. So we explained how this Stevenson is basically what connects the east side to the west side of Erlanger, and that it's a hospital route, and it's just way overdue. And we also informed them that we know the plans are still sitting in District 6 from the mid-'80s, and then Tom will tell you how the meeting went.
So when we look at the monies that they were estimating, so Carol, the state engineer, was down there. We also had the plant manager from down on Kentucky 17 and the public works director from the county, along with Judge Knockelman. So looking at this, they actually looked at the amount of money in today's dollars it would take to do some work on Stevenson Road. Estimate was $8.1 million. We did have a couple options there, because you have to remember that we're looking at 1.227 miles of road from Turkey Foot to Dixie Highway. When you're looking at design, it was about $800,000, $1 million for the right-of-way, $1 million for utilities, and 5.3 million for the construction of the actual road or reconstruction. All that's been done to this road pretty much is blacktop, blacktop, blacktop. When you walk the sidewalks, especially some of the areas, road is meeting blacktop, or blacktop is meeting sidewalk, and pretty dangerous down there. We also know the drainage issues. We also know the ice issues that come up with that. So looking at that $8.1 million kind of put us in a little bit of a bind, a little bit more than our S&K funds that OKI that we could apply for with those. However, talking to Carol, we believe that we could get that under or close to the 5 million by looking at going from where the Brightleaf, kind of interchange the school is, where they actually did the realignment, and keeping the railroad tracks completely out of it. As we know, dealing with the railroad is a little bit of an issue. That could get us closer to the $5 million that we could apply for the S&K funds for that. So that's good because that'll be two 10-foot lanes with 5-foot sidewalks on one side with the storm sealers and catch basins throughout, which is desperately, desperately needed. We could not do the multi-use path. It would be too wide, expensive, and especially with the way the road is, we would take up too much of a right-of-way for that. So looking at the S&K fund for that, we had to demonstrate a partnership, and partnering with the county would be very beneficial because that kind of shows that we're working together on this plan to kind of get moving forward with this. Usually that's about a 20% match. Judge Nachman and his nod say, oh yes, we'll match that, or we'll match your match, or whatever. However, he was not unopposed to having discussions on that. And if we refer back to the sidewalk plan, we have about $100,000 that we would have to invest in the sidewalks on Stevenson to do those things. And I informed him that we would not put a dime in those unless we had some work on Stevenson or support from the county for that, because I think that's really important. Why should we start throwing good money after bad if we have nothing there for that? Having that discussion, Judge Nachman's place on the OKI board has been very helpful, and he did identify that most of the newer roads in Boone County were done this way, with this partnership. And, with our money that we have to play with, and we may be able to go ahead and just have these plans tweaked and move them forward. Now, we would have an opportunity also, without the S&K funds, to look at putting this on the state's list. However, this is not a major thoroughfare. It does connect Erlanger east to west, but it's not something that's a major thoroughfare, so that's going to be some issues and concerns there. We would have to demonstrate that it is a hazard and a problem. Fortunately, I believe it was 3 days after this meeting is when we had to shut Stevenson down because of the flooding. So we have some really, really nice video to show some of our legislators and other folks in the Department of Transportation for that. One of the things that we did agree on in here is that, we're supporting the Houston Road extension. That still remains a top priority. However, Stevenson Road needs to have a look at, has to be done, something needs to be done. 30 years is too long to not do anything for this. So I think we have a lot of good facts and make a good case. We have we have the video that we have now from the flooding of the road. I think it's time to get the citizens together and the businesses. We do have 2 business owners that are interested. We're having a hard time with some of the citizens on Stevenson, so we'll have to probably do some knocking on doors. But I think after the last flood, we'll get a lot of interest with that. So that's kind of the update where we're at. Are we interested in pursuing this if we're looking at a 20% match at this $5 million? That's the biggest question we have for this council. Our recommendation would be yes. So.
And like he said, Judge Nachman said a lot of the newer roads that are big roads that were put in Boone County did this. So the counties and the cities put a match in. It speeds up the process tremendously.
It increases the priority it keeps the priority on the list for these roads. So do we have an interest? I mean, we have a plan here for sidewalks on Stevenson. We have this plans that are 30 years old for Stevenson Road. We're looking at $100,000 to invest in the sidewalks. I mean, thoughts, questions, concerns, issues, emotional outbreaks?
I'm for it.
All right, there you go. Yeah. Thanks, Vicki.
Got one.
Move along.
I lived in that area for
Right to the point.
44 years, and Stevenson's always been a problem with the flooding, because I recall, this has been a while, my husband and I were going to go someplace in Ohio, so we went down Stevenson, because that's our main route. It was flooded. Then we decided, okay, we'll go Hallam. Hallam was flooded. So it was a bad flood, a lot of water. So so any little gullies were flooded. But that Stevenson's always like that. I would avoid it all the time. Every time it rains, and I've had citizens complain about the sidewalks. If you go down there, those sidewalks have been flooded so many times, they're just deteriorated. So I think it's something that we've had for a long time that really needs to be addressed. So I would be for it.
So did I understand correctly? Did you say that the match would be shared between the county and the city?
That's what we would like to negotiate, I think. Yeah.
We kind of mentioned that to him because we said, well, Boone County kind of matched, so we're hoping Kenton County will kind of, and he said, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, and the interesting part about that is that it was very clear that the reason the DOT was there was because this is a state road, this is not a county road. I said, well, this is not a city road. I said, we're looking at putting this investment in here, what can we get out of this? And I think that's the important discussion that needs to be had.
And everybody in that room agreed it needed to be redone. So that, and like he said, a couple days afterwards when we had that horrible rainstorm, I have 8 or 10 videos of flooding. I posted one on Facebook, but they were in the different areas, and I always thought where the greenhouse, where that wasn't the worst flooding at all. It was closer.
Yeah, that's much further.
And I mean, cars are driving through, and their headlights were going under the water. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I believe, you know, that's not even the worst hazard. I believe the ice is worse. When you talk about
ice is
wintertime with the flooding, the ice is going to be more of a concern than anything. You know, we could look at actual traffic statistics since we're covering that area to see what the wrecks are during those times. You know, because my thought is that a lot. However, you know, that's just because I lived at that dip in Jacqueline, I could watch them on Stevenson wrecking, and my mom knows that. She still does that. That's what they entertain themselves with.
Did you start filming those?
It's like Dodgems and car crashes. Or, you know, we just sit at the window and go, oh, okay, there's another one.
Yes, sir.
I believe it's been about 10 years ago, but there were 2 fatalities, I believe, within probably 2 months of each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
I live on Terrace, and I grew up
Oh,
in
wow.
Stevenson. My entire life, that's the road I see every morning. And
Yeah.
I think the ice is just, you know, the water's bad, but the ice, you don't see it. When my kids were at home and they first started driving, I would tell them in the winter, you aren't allowed to use Stevenson Road. You have to go up to
Right.
Timberlake and come down.
So,
It's really bad.
Yeah.
So Carol from the state told us, you know, to come back to you all, or Mr. Chris Knockelman told us to come back to you all and see what your thoughts were on a match, and if everybody's interested, then our committee can, she said, get your committee and get facts, get statistics, get video footage, well, I think we got that, but, you know, all kinds of stuff to prove your case to the state. So I guess we need everybody's blessing before our committee moves forward on what you all think.
What is our match again?
20% of we think we can get it under the $5 million for the S&K. However, if we can show the statistics for the crash statistics and things like that, we could get it on the list for the state. But remember, then we're competing with back roads in Harlan County, things like that also.
Right.
And as I learned from one of our representatives, it's easy to get roads approved for funding. It's just not easy to get the money. Roads approved.
And having the plans just really jump-starts us a lot. Because they said that takes years in itself. So to have those plans and all you have to do is retweak them is a godsend. So, and it's funny because when I brought that up, she goes, yes, I found that out the other day and I dug them up and I did all the current calculations on what it would be, so.
All right,
So I've heard a few yays.
Yes.
Looks like everybody's kind of nodding their heads.
Ball rolling.
We'll get the ball rolling. We'll get the full committee together. We have the businesses. We'll have to do some walking to get some citizens. Our outreach for some of our folks has not worked out as well as we like, but maybe if we knock on a few doors, we can get some folks.
What are you trying to get from the citizens again?
Oh, just get representation
Oh,
from
okay.
Stevenson Road.
Okay, good.
We want those stories. We want that history. We want those issues and concerns.
I'm sure we could probably pull up on CAD all the accidents and things like that as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that'd be cool.
I know Lieutenant Colonel over there, he's thinking, gosh, computer, I don't know if I can do that. But I'm sure he's got somebody that can. I think you started this today, didn't you?
Well, I really commend you. I mean, that you've done a fantastic job in a short amount of time on this. You made a lot of progress already. It's
Yeah.
nice to see.
It was pure luck.
It was.
Pure luck. It was mainly going to get, Chris Knockelman to support us at OKI, and it ended up being a very productive meeting.
And I guess we could thank him for blindsiding us with all those people at the meeting. Oh, my God.
That's fabulous.
Okay.
And then the rain, a couple days later, it's like a godsend, you know.
All right, good. So I think we got permission to move forward. We'll go ahead and do that. Next one is the Operation Honor Banner. So we did have a suggestion at the last meeting. I am meeting Thursday with the Historical Society, with their leadership team to see if they are interested in doing this. Preliminary is yes, they are willing to be the go-to people for this. However, it has to go through their board first for that. But I think there's an interest in that. They were concerned that they would have to produce all the pictures. I said, no, this would go from people that want the banners. I know there was a concern from the gentleman that presented. There's still an opportunity for that, but I think we have due diligence to go out for bid for these. So.
Yeah, I mean, I got a very upset phone call from him, and I don't blame him. You know, he's an Erlanger resident, Erlanger business, and
Which business in Erlanger?
I don't know. He said he had 2 businesses in Erlanger.
All his businesses are in Warsaw and in a couple other places I look up on the internet. It's a 503B. It's a charitable organization. I'd also like to see the numbers for those charitable organizations, see how much actually goes back to the charities.
But yeah, he was upset that he felt like he had brought the idea to us, and then we went around him.
I wouldn't say that. I think what we're looking at is, once again, making sure that we have the best price and we have the best interest of the city. Talking with our lawyers, even, independents, the city doesn't do it, it's the VFW that does it. Our VFW happens to be located in Ellesmere. Our Historical Society is one of those options that we can utilize for that. I think that's a good option.
Right.
We did talk about another option in one of the leadership team meetings. Mr. Bogart had brought up, was it the train depot park that you were talking about? Yeah, okay. So you said the train depot park has 4 light posts where we could display a banner like this. And in talking, we thought, wouldn't it be neat if we called this some kind of, maybe use Operation Honor Banner and say, call it something like Hometown Heroes. I know one of the concerns that Jack has is about who gets put on this or who gets requested. This is inside the city. And pick, 4 military veterans from inside the city. 1 policeman, 1 fireman, someone from Public Works, and someone from admin. We've got military veterans in all 4 of those departments. And put the
employees.
There'd only be city employees.
They've been background checked?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Background check
And
on this guy?
On whoever you put up.
Oh, right. Yeah. It would be city employees.
Well, background check them.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
So Mayor, I think that's a great idea, and I think that was one of the areas we were looking at putting this. We'd also discussed the Avenue of Champions, like by Lloyd up there, and as options for those. And, I understand Mr. Montgomery's concerns and issues, but I think we need to look at this from that standpoint on how, what's best as far as this cost and who goes up there. My concern with this whole thing is that a lot of things with the Operation Honor, I'll go on record for this, is that when I look at what happened what they do down in Grant County where they put this, the work goes back on the city. The decision and the work goes back on the city. He's printing something, and now you get to hang it, you get to decide how long it goes up, you get to decide when to take it down. You get to be the person that's offensive to people. So, I think any opportunity that we can move that liability away from us is going to be good. And any opportunity we can to honor these people through a different organization, I think that, especially something like the Historical Society that we work hand in hand with, would be a better option. Jack, do you have any?
No, I agree. My concerns have been, number one, I think that you have to be real careful, and this sounds overly legalistic, But I think you have to be real careful if you are giving to one business an exclusive franchise to operate on city property or within your right-of-way. I think you're opening yourself up. I think you minimally have to bid that out. And then I think the second issue is when you as the city are acting as the barrier, so to speak, or yes, this person goes up, no, this person doesn't go up. You know, I think there's some First Amendment issues, and I think as a city, we are more subject to issues as it relates to litigation in that area than something like a historical society would be. So those have always been my concerns.
Okay, and I think we're moving in the right direction. Would you agree then with some of these things? And the mayor's suggestion too, I think would work out initially. We could do that. However, I think I'd like to put that with them. You know, we can work with them and see what the Historical Society on their decision-making process, just to make sure that they have some things in place. Ms. Fetty, you had a question. I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. I guess my question is cost. So from what I understood from Mr. Montgomery, the cost was to the citizen to sponsor it.
Purchase.
To sponsor, well, he uses the terminology as sponsor. So are we going to be doing the same type of sponsorship through the Historical Society, or is the Historical Society going to foot the bill?
I think it should be for the people that come through that make that decision. I think there should be an this is how I envision it, but I'm not part of the Historical Society. It's an application process. You apply, we put it out for bid, you get us the pictures, things like that. We get it printed and put it up. And
who pays for it?
That would be the person that wants it displayed.
Okay, so they would still be sponsoring. I just hesitate because it seems like he came in here with an idea, and we liked the idea. And I get the whole pushing it to Historical Society to, you know, change the legality of it. But it just seems a little funky that we're going to take his idea and run with it.
Okay, and I can see your point with that. However, when I'm looking at this from my standpoint too, is that his business was not based on this honor banner. His business was based on making plaques or flag boxes.
Yeah.
And he was employing veterans to do that. He's selling those. I'm sure he makes some money off that. I'm not sure what his other businesses are. You know, I'd like to see this, and I think once again he has an opportunity here. If he is the lowest bid, that he can do these things for us. If he's not the lowest bid, then we need to understand why not.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think we need to put these out. I mean,
Have you been in contact with him? Have you been in contact with him?
I have not.
To explain it?
I have not. He's coming to the next council meeting.
Okay.
Pretty sure he will, yeah.
Yeah, I just think it would be good to have open communication with him.
So that's my understanding. He's coming to the next council meeting. So,
Yeah.
So Mayor, I think, you know, moving forward with that, let me talk to the Historical Society on Thursday. I'll come back and get some information. Maybe we can sit down and have that conversation. So.
Yeah, and just to finalize my thought on the train depot park, those 4 banners wouldn't be paid for with tax dollars. Those would be donated by either businesses or maybe members of council or something like that would kick in the money for those. And my thought would be purely so we have something to compare. You know, if we look at his thing, and this is city employees, and we can compare the quality of those versus whatever else we might do, and that's all.
I think we need to do apples to apples. He does restore the photos that come through, so I think that's important. So when we're looking at that, you know, are these restorations going to be done? You know, how are they going to be done? I don't know how simple that is. It's been a long time. I was in 11th grade when I did graphic arts, so it's been a while since I've done anything like that. So, but I would like to see Mr. Fields with a hair and a uniform. So.
Give you the uniform, but I can't give any hair.
Yes.
Why are you honoring city employees as opposed to residents of the city?
Part of the legal issues is worrying about who's going to be coming forward and who they're going to be recommending to put on there.
I can see where residents are going to be pissed at this because it's like patting themselves on the back. Just like that monument down there with all those, a lot of city employees
That's what I think.
Right.
Are you
Well-
kidding me?
Yeah.
Those are not all paid, those aren't all paid employees on that monument. There's a lot of volunteers.
Yeah. Ms. Dietz, I think the whole purpose of what I was saying was having a test case. It was merely for quality and things like that. And I think it would be carried throughout the city and then opened up to the citizens once we get it figured out. I think it's honorable to I mean, it's good to honor the veterans. It would still be veterans. We're starting with employees. That was all. Just, okay. Corinne?
I mean,
Or- no,
do we want
no
to do this, or
comment.
we want to just drop the whole thing? That's the question.
I think drop it.
I
I think, you know,
I
listen
agree
to,
with what
there's
you
just so
said.
many legalities.
Everybody gets paid to do their job.
Yeah,
you know.
I say drop it.
I agree.
You know, it is a good idea for the vets, but, you know, what do you want to put, they're out here making money and
And you know, and if some individual wants to take over something like that, then I think the city can just stay out of it and let
what if they
them.
don't, what if they start doing a bad job, you gonna take it down?
Right. Well, and the other problem is if
I
the
mean,
city,
seriously.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
the other problem is if the city's in charge of it and it's state-sponsored, you know, it's governmental sponsored, we can't really control who puts what up
Right.
because we created what the First Amendment calls a public forum, and therefore we can't discriminate on what's being said, and we could have people being put up there who fought for the Nazis in World War II, but they're still veterans, or the Confederates, or whatever you want. I mean, yeah, I don't know that would happen, but legally, we wouldn't be allowed to draw that kind of distinction.
Right. I think it's just opening a whole can of worms that we probably.
It
shouldn't
is.
legally.
Okay. So, I don't know, should we do hands and say you feel like you want to drop it? I mean, people
I
who
mean,
want
I can make the recommendation either way. You know, this was, you know, we were looking for a solution to this that would take the liability off the city. However, if we feel that this is not going to work out in our best interest, then I agree, then just drop.
Else will come up later that might work better, who knows?
Okay.
I think if it goes on public property, even we have the same problem with the First Amendment issues, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just sort of kind of go full circle what Independence did, because obviously we faced a similar issue in Independence. So Independence routed everything through the VFW, and it's all put on the Dieters property, Kroger there. And all the city did is promote this on their Facebook page. So the city had no involvement other than promoting the VFW doing this on a private business.
Now, I'd be all for that.
Yeah, that you can do.
Yeah, let's move along.
Okay.
But where, I mean, that's just it. We don't have the private, I mean, you're looking at what, yeah,
Maybe Kroger or someone else can
right.
sponsor that in the future.
You could talk to the gentleman and see if he can find somebody that wants to
Sure.
do that with him.
Got the consensus?
All right.
Is that the recommendation? Okay.
Mark that off my list.
Okay. Thank you.
That is our report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Great job.
All right, then we'll move on to administration. This,
Joe's gonna do the logo?
you're going to talk about the logo discussion? Oh,
Everyone's so anxious.
Serves me correct, at the last council meeting, you had called for it to be on this agenda, so I'm
Yeah,
here to answer any questions.
Okay, so my point in putting it on the agenda was to try to help get consensus from council. I mean, it sounded like we were on a direction to get a finalized logo, but like, logo, but it kind of stopped. I don't know that we ever really did finalize it, so that would be the whole point, is just to, and I think that, I don't know, did everybody get the email?
Yes.
That you had
That was
requested?
very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that anything that, can you pull that up from here? Or should we, do we even need to? Go ahead, Patty.
I would be very, very comfortable if the department heads chose the logo.
And trying to make it all seem like the same brand?
Yes.
Still? Yeah.
I would be very, very comfortable with that.
It's time to do something. Let's get it all.
Yeah.
Off the, you know what I
They
mean?
wear it more than
Paul,
we
be
do.
willing to do that?
I thought,
Would you take that on, choosing?
wait, we did that
Oh, I'm
at the,
sorry.
we did that at the budget retreat. When we talked about it and Joe presented it, that's exactly what we did. All the department heads were here, they all agreed on that logo. So we're revisiting something that I think that we did a few months ago.
Aren't you
Okay.
using a logo now? A new one?
It's the same one from the committee meeting.
Oh, well, then
Committee
When we
meeting?
back in,
So,
Joe
Right,
just,
right.
Joe just wants to go live on the computer
July
or
1,
whatever.
right.
And he wants to know where he's supposed to go.
yeah, I'm
from
not,
here.
like I said, way back when we had the meeting, I'm not married to the logo, I'm not married to the motto.
Right.
I'm just,
Yeah, so I think, would it make sense to at least start with just the general city logo? Let's not worry about the departments, we'll let I think that's a great idea. Let the department heads design their own.
because we plan on going live with a new website probably within the next week or two.
Yeah.
And I would just like it all to be all together if possible. I mean,
So, do we have consensus on the motto, "We're always home"?
we can change that. We have the logo without it, we have the logo with it. I'm open to anything. I just don't want this to drag on another several months or whatever.
The only suggestion I had was just a suggestion. When I looked at the different designs, the city of Erlanger was in gray. And I was wondering if anybody else thought that to put the city of Erlanger in blue to match the other blue on the design, if that would look better, it'd be more noticeable. Green and gray kind of like fades. That's just a thought. That's the only thing I thought. I like the designs. I like the star. And I like having the 1897 in there. I think that's good. So I'm okay with we're always home.
I think it's a great point, and I do think we
Yeah.
probably need to have two versions of the logo, whether it's going against a dark background or a light background. You know, so maybe it's, gray, all gray, that goes on a dark background, and if it's a light background, then maybe it's all, maybe whatever was gray is blue. Or the city of Erlanger at least.
So to have the city of Erlanger possibly match the blue in the state. Okay.
I wanted
Go ahead, Patty.
Oh, thanks. It may just be me, but I believe that one of your colons is upside down.
oh, for God's sake.
No.
Upside down, did you?
Have you had that checked, Joe?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Maybe you like getting checked.
How old are you now? You have to do these things regularly now.
Oh, my God, that's hilarious.
You did that, didn't even think about it. You did a good job, Patty.
The umlaws, the quotes.
Yes, okay.
One is right side up, the other one is upside down, I think.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, it has been 100 years since Patty's had an English class.
But she still remembered something.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
I think
God,
so.
that's so
Thank you,
funny.
Joe.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Still had a class.
Would you mind sharing that? I mean, so
Yeah, do
kind of the final
Oh,
version
sure,
of
yeah.
it and share it with everybody? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Get your colon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, check your colon.
I had a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Renee.
I have no idea.
I know the "we're always home." I'm wondering if some people aren't going to say, well, if they're always home, who's minding the city? Who's doing the work? Who's doing, if we're always home? I know that home is here, but it's like, if you're always home, you can't be here.
Well, I think the police and the fire is always home. Now, I look at it. Their protection's here, it's always home, let's go. I mean, I agree with what you said, this is home, but,
Well, how does everybody else look? Do you like We're Always Home? If everybody else likes We're Always Home, I'll live with it, but I just think it's opening yourself up for somebody to say, if you're always home, where are you at? Why are you not at the city building if you're always home?
Yeah.
I didn't even have a colon in there.
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Go ahead, Jessica.
Can we just do the logo without the motto?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, because you're going to be stuck with this. If in fact you put that on there, it's going to be something that we're going to be stuck with for an awful long time. And if there's some, indecision here about wanting that as the motto, then yeah, moving forward with the logo would be a perfect idea. Without the motto, we can always add that later, have those more discussions. That may be a more, get some more input, from the public.
I think it looks
Well,
less
we
cluttered.
need the logo, so we don't really need the motto right now, so
Right,
the logo's the most
I
important
agree.
thing.
Jessica had a
That's
very
absolute-
valid point.
Very, very good idea.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. All right, thank you. Any other discussion on that?
here we go.
All right. Okay, so then the next item on the agenda is the committee meeting procedures.
Is that, gee, we're loving life because we're just the committee. Is that Randy? With the procedures that
That's fine.
Okay.
The,
Not trying to dump, but
the municipal ordinance that was presented, municipal order that we presented last time was really not intended to go on the agenda at that time, was really intended to be discussed at a committee meeting first, and the agenda was amended to have the discussion then. I don't know if we need to proceed on that, or if everybody's fine with it, or if you want to amend it, or whatever. I mean, I've really, like I said, it was presented for discussion, not really for a decision that night, and when the mayor wanted to amend the agenda to add it, we added it, so.
Okay.
That's all I was intending, and the original thing was just let's discuss it and see if we wanted to change procedures, because there had been some discussion, and not just about sit where we sat. I really couldn't care less where I sat. It was more along the lines of where the meetings were being conducted. But if y'all want to do it, fine. If not, fine. I'm not pushing it one way or the other anymore.
Jessica?
I think the only thing of value in it was that we have to have it recorded. That's the only thing.
Absolutely should be.
And I think everything else should be omitted.
I don't even know that we necessarily need a municipal order for that. I mean, we're
think-
doing it right now, tonight.
Yeah, I don't know that it requires a municipal order.
I think that was the big talk anyway.
That was the main thing that motivated it, really, because we've had situations where people have come back and said, I didn't say that, or I didn't consent to that, or I didn't agree with that, and then if we'd had a recording, we would have had evidence that, yeah, you did. So I think having that was my major issue, was I think we should have recording of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that? All right, we'll move on to codes, building, and zoning.
Well, that's us again.
First item on there is the vicious dog ordinance. Who is prepared to talk about that?
Mark, me, you?
That's going to be us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That'll be us.
Vicious dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we actually had the codes and meeting the other day. We sat down, and with the codification, we believe that the pit bull has been taken out, the vicious animal ordinance, that is being taken care of. The concern is pretty much the same if we have consents from neighbors. What happens, once your dog bites somebody, they're now a vicious animal. So that's my 10-pound, miniature Australian Shepherd, that's your Yorkie, that's your mean, vicious Chihuahua, things like that. So that's what defines a vicious animal. Did I pronounce it wrong? Is it Chihuahua?
No, I wasn't saying that. No, I said it's funny you say that, but there is actually a Chihuahua on the vicious dog list in Erlanger.
Yes.
I've never been bit by a dog that weighs over 20 pounds. I'm just saying. Those little dogs are mean.
So that's where it becomes, and I know this was brought up, whether or not we should be utilizing the, we have the registry for the vicious animal that, once they become defined as vicious, this kind of puts them on that registry. There's certain things that they have to do. We removed the pit bull part of it. However, once they become vicious, if we add this part about the neighbors, then dogs are going to be taken away. So
we recommend we don't do that.
Don't do that.
Let me just chime in to agree. I didn't know you guys were looking at this, so Mark and I kind of have been looking at this a little bit, and I even circulated something on the city listserv, and I know Frank chimed in on that forum as well. I completely agree. I think as someone who used to prosecute and prosecuted under the state law and an ordinance that's very similar to Erlanger's, I think the current law that Erlanger has after the codification and after we kind of cleaned it up a little bit is very easy to prosecute. It's kind of the vicious dog issue. The breed-specific stuff is getting out of favor. And yes, there are cities in northern Kentucky that still have some breed-specific bans, but the general trend out there is that those are illegal because they're unconstitutionally vague. Because what defines a pit bull? Is it 90% pit bull? Is it 70% pit bull? Is it 50% pit bull? And the reality is my golden retriever can do as much damage to a kid as any animal. So I think I agree with the committee, which is rare. It seems like the last 2 weeks for me to agree with anybody up here, but which is why I want to talk. So I do agree that
I'll mark this one down.
that I think current law is adequate, and I think it got cleaned up a lot with what we did in the codification.
Go ahead, Vicki.
A little history about the vicious dog ordinance. At one time, we did ban pit bulls, and we had a lady who came to council, and she had a pit bull, and so she requested that we allow them, and when we did allow them, we put specifications that they be registered, they have to be neutered, they have to be fenced, etc. And so that's how it started, and right after we changed our ordinance to allow pit bulls, she moved out of the city. Oh, and another thing, vicious is VIC, whoever typed this, I don't know, but while we're correcting grammar and punctuation.
Is there a colon in that?
Come on, teacher.
Oh, I didn't
Viscous.
spell it.
Vicious.
Sorry.
The problem with enforcing some of these rules is where I have a concern, because I went through this, as many of you know, you heard my story about the pit bull. A lot of people, if they have one, they're not gonna report it, first of all, as you stated, they probably won't, because they don't want anybody to know that they have it, because now it's gonna cost them extra money to the city, they gotta go through all these hoops. They have to build a fence. Then they also will probably have to pay more on their insurance, so a lot of people won't report it anyway. So the only way you're gonna find out that someone has one is, as I did, I was charged by one, my husband was charged, my grandchildren were charged. We were tired of that thing running loose, for one thing. And if it's not gonna be friendly and just charge at you, that's scary. But our problem was, the house is in foreclosure, you can fine them till they hilt, and they don't care. But there was another little problem, I won't bring it up publicly, that I think the reason they got rid of it, they didn't want to be having a lot of attention drawn to their house. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a nightmare to enforce, because how do you know somebody's got a pit bull? And some pit bulls are very nice, they're very friendly, you know, it's not breed specific, it's how they're raised. The only thing with the pit bull is the way their mouth is built. They can hang on more so than any other type of breed and do a lot of damage. That's the fact. But I don't know if you want to change your ordinance, get out of all those extra additions that we make them do. Or do you want to
Well, we just do that for dogs that have been deemed vicious.
plus the pit bulls?
Pit bull's not a part of the current ordinance.
No breed specific mention.
Because when I read the
Wolf hybrid.
hybrids,
Wolf hybrid, yes. No, we took pit bull off in the in the new recodification section. Yep.
okay.
Which I guess we're doing second reading on next meeting, right? Or first reading? Frank? Second reading, next meeting.
Now if somebody has a pit bull, they don't have to have it fenced.
That's exact, well, the ordinance is only going to apply to vicious dogs or wolf hybrids. We left the wolf hybrid in there.
Really not a domestic.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Well, I'm glad we didn't change it until now, because our dog is gone. That was scary.
Okay. All right, is there any more discussion on that? All right, then we'll move on to the group home rentals.
Okay. I'm going to let Mark take this.
You all are busy tonight, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, for the past several months, we have been getting a lot of phone calls to the city, reference what is cropping up all over town. Group homes, they're calling them, but they're really sober living facilities, is what they are. And they've cropped up. We have one organization in town that now has just bought their fourth house. They had a fifth house under contract. We've also been approached by somebody that wanted to buy a vacant lot and start building duplexes, I believe, to house these same things. Just so to get an understanding of what these are. These are recovering addicts, a living facility for them, where they are being rented out bedrooms, in essence, not the whole house. The one in particular that Dave and I met with last week or 2 weeks ago, they actually don't look for anything under a 4-bedroom house. They do want to have, they mostly like corner lots because then they can park on both streets if we've got parking on the streets. So they want to make sure there's plenty of parking, and what they try to do is put at least 7 people in that house. They rent bedrooms to these individuals by the week. There are certain rules they have to abide by. They have to get drug tested. They have to have a job. They have some curfews. They have some chores and doing some things like that. These are all people that have gone through at least the initial stage of some kind of probably 30-day recovery before they get out. So it's not like they've been in recovery a very long time. Anyway, so there have been some cities, Newport being one, that has tried to do some restricting to that. They actually got sued by the Fair Housing Authority, and lo and behold, they've come up with an ordinance that meets the federal standard. Just so everybody knows now that when group homes first came out and were first defined, they were usually for the mentally or physically handicapped person. Now, since if you're a recovering addict under the fair housing laws, you are handicapped. So once you drink again or use drugs again, you are no longer handicapped any longer. But until you do such a thing, you're handicapped and you can't discriminate against them. So they've kind of slipped in to say, oh, we are the group home, is what they're trying to say that they actually are, the group homes for the handicapped. So we're seeing a lot of these crop up. We're getting a lot of calls from concerned citizens about them. I think it's going to be something that's more and more. As a matter of fact, this proprietor here that we met with, even though we talked to probation and parole, and they said if they have to deal with anybody, these are the people that they deal with, because this is the best run one in northern Kentucky, that these people run the best homes in northern Kentucky. What we're having is some of the other shadier ones that just are in it for the profit. So if you think about this, they're renting bedrooms out from anywhere from $100 to, we heard last week, $115 a week. So if you put 7 people in a house and you're getting, $800 and some a week, and you're going out here and you're buying the $100,000 house, you're making quite a profit. We were even told by these people 2 weeks ago that they do not take any kind of federal assistance. They had actually been approached by a very large organization to provide a living facility, basically, and it was going to be here in town. Again, they were looking at land here in town to do more like an institutional kind of setting, but they didn't want to have anything to do with that because they didn't want to have to play by anybody else's rules. So if they took any kind of assistance, of course, they'd have to be playing by federal guidelines or some state guidelines and things like that. So, we wanted to bring this up for discussion, to talk about, I think Jack and Frank both have been looking at ways that maybe we can mold an ordinance to have just some kind of control over these, because this guy flat told us, he said, I'm not going to Covington, I'm not going to Newport, I'm not going to Bellevue, I'm not going along the river. He said, I'm coming to Erlanger and Boone County, and he's got houses in Florence and Erlanger both right now. And so what they're seeing is they believe that if they get these people, I think, further away from maybe some of the evils, maybe, or the temptations that they have, they're better off, and maybe that's true. I think what really tweaked my ears, and I think David's ears too, is they picked somebody up from the airport just this past week or the week before they met us that flew in from Vegas that was going to live in one of their houses. So not only are we talking about local people, we're talking about them shipping people in here from not only around the state, Some people from Lexington are in this one, or in one of the houses. None of them around the country. So I think, you know, looking at it and trying to figure out a way to do it, I think there are some options, and Jack can go into some of those things if he wants to right now to look at it and see, but put some kind of conditions on these houses. We can't ban them. There's no way we're going to be able to do that, but, you know, when everybody starts figuring out that they're in their neighborhood, and the neighborhoods that they're in, that people have already figured it out and they've already started calling us, that we're going to have more and more issues with this.
What kind of calls we get on the people,
About the neighborhood, the people neighborhood? Well, number one, being surprised that it's there. You know, what is this? We see all these people going in and out. We've got parking complaints. I mean, the one that's in my neighborhood, you know, when the people were the long guns in the front yard with, you know, kicking in the door, that kind of went, oh, wait, what happened? That person actually OD'd in that one and died, and lo and behold, that house is no longer there. And it was just simply a mother that said, oh, my son's an addict, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to move 5 addicts in it. And that's what they did. And there's no regulations out there to say people can't do this.
Was that the night the 2 guys chased that car? Was that
No, that was before that.
That was, okay.
Yeah, no.
Because I know where that house was.
Yeah. No, that's the other one. Now, this is another one. No, yeah. Yeah, that one seems to be pretty good now. But no, so I'll turn it over to Jack if he wants to go in.
Yeah, so I think the only real discussion tonight is obviously under our current zoning code, the definition of family has been liberalized to the point that all of these probably, you know, almost anything is defined as a family. So the simple fact is if we do nothing as a city, staff is not going to be in a position to regulate these. And fortunately or unfortunately, our office was kind of had a front row seat in the litigation in Newport because we represented a church that was brought into that case. And Newport took kind of the 180-degree stance that we did. Newport basically said, hey, we're getting a lot of these in the community. We need to aggressively regulate them. We don't want all these halfway houses, sober living houses popping up in Newport. And they just started trying to evict people. They through their code enforcement officers were citing people for having, you know, 5, 6, 7 people in a home that weren't living together, kind of outside the scope of that definition of family. So HUD got involved. It got pretty nasty. The litigation got pretty nasty. And so we kind of have an understanding of how far you can go without the federal government saying, hey, you've gone too far. Because as Mark said, these individuals who are a part of these sober living houses qualify under ADA as disabled individuals. So you obviously cannot discriminate against that. And FHA has some very, very stringent guidelines, and the ADA has some stringent guidelines. So I think the first question we have to answer tonight is, do we want to regulate them? Do we want to think about some type of text amendment to better regulate these types of sober living facilities? And if we look at what happened just recently in Newport, and some of the discussion that Covington is having and some of the discussion right now at PDS, you know, we really have probably only 2 ways that we can regulate them. We can limit the proximity that they are to each other. Okay, so what was negotiated in the Newport situation is we can keep them 650 feet apart. Okay. They wanted 1,000 in Newport, and they said, no, you can't go 1,000. They kind of agreed to 650 feet. So the whole idea there is you wouldn't be able to have maybe 4 or 5 of them all together. The second thing we can regulate is the amount of people in the unit, okay? So 6 to 7 is probably okay with FHA. So we can limit the amount of people that are in them. We can make them jump through a few hoops, go through some level of, I would say, loosely a licensing process. They've got to make some applications. They've got to notify the city. They've got to, you know, do all the things that the city needs to do to keep them kind of under their wraps. And then we can limit the distance that they're apart. So I think, again, the first discussion is just, do we want to even do something about this?
We do.
Absolutely.
And the reason is, like you said, there's some good people doing this to try to help these people get restarted. But then there's always the loopholes where people want to make a quick buck and they're going to cram as many people in there, like they used to do with the transients. They used to put a bunch of them in a bedroom and wall them all. You know, you have to do something to keep that from happening. So is there a way that we can say they have to have licensing and they have to have like classes or something? Is there something like that we can do?
I mean, we can regulate, but we can only regulate so far. And I know that's sort of a non-answer. But the more layers of regulation that we put on, the more ire we're going to have from people who are saying that we're overreaching.
But I think as long as we put this under the pretense of safety for those occupants, we're probably good, right? Like
Yeah,
a house,
I mean,
like a house manager, so many people in a home, you know, smoke detectors, stuff like that.
yes, obviously they would have to follow all of our current code enforcement. They would have to, you know, we would do something similar to what we've done with the landlord-tenant registries, those types of things. Where Newport got into trouble and where there's litigation on this issue is A, if you just outright ban them, you can't outright ban them. And B, if you become too regulating of them, where all of these layers of regulations in effect ban them. So